You are now listening to We Are Crayons, the podcast. Extraordinary conversations with Trinidad and Tobago's creative thinkers and makers. We'll delve into their processes, their struggles, and what drives them to execute continually as creative individuals. I'm your host, Donna McNichol. Enjoy. This podcast is a production of A Big Box of Crayons. Please review and rate the show by going to podchaser.com/wearecrayons the podcast. You can help support the show by buying us a coffee or two at buymeacoffee.com/wearecrayons.
David, thanks for joining us today. You're making history, being the first.
Yeah, I understand the gravity of the moment fully. Because number ones in podcasts, yeah, episode number 1, yep.
Right, so I just want to get started by asking a bit about yourself. So tell me first and foremost, who are you and what do you do?
All right, real name David Hamilton, artist name Subriki, The Face. I am a Raspo artist. Raspo, I would say Raspo / hip-hop because I'm very hip-hop influenced. And I also, I've been an artist for like a decade now, seriously practicing it, roughly around there. And I also have a recording studio now called Feature Crab Studios, which was a big milestone for me. I opened that up 2 years ago. And yeah, that's the important thing.
Awesome. So I want to kind of go even further back to like your childhood, kind of understand what brought you into this thing that we call creativity. So before we do that, just tell me, what does creativity mean to you?
Creativity to me is about solving problems. So like recently, like I reading like these days I read out Leonardo da Vinci stuff, right? And when you read like how he painted certain things, he revolutionized stuff mainly because he really used to observe nature. No? That was his scientific curiosity. And what he was trying to solve is, how could you make things more realistic? How you could make things, he wanted to draw things 3-dimensional. He wanted to show things in movement. No? So even when he was painting like the Madonna images and stuff, he drew things to the side. And that was because he observed stuff. It was actually a problem he was trying to solve. No? So that's how he got creative with it. So that's why I see creativity as generally is like you're trying to solve something. How do you do it? Which way you take? Understand?
Do you think at a young age you will consider yourself a creative person, or is that something that you grew into as you grew up?
When I was young, I didn't think I was creative at all. Like at all. I remember like distinctly wondering if I was creative. Like could I do anything? Because when I was younger, I thought creativity only had to do with like art, right? Drawing. Couldn't draw at all. I couldn't paint. I sucked at all those things. So I was like, hey, why not creative, boy? And like, I remember trying to do art and craft and like,
right.
Damn, boy, just not creative. It's only when like I learned about poetry and started writing writing like stories and thing and stuff. And then my teachers were like, hey, this is really good. I was like, oh, okay, I could create something.
So was that secondary school?
That would have been late primary school, early secondary school.
Where you went to school?
My secondary school was Presentation College in Sandro. So like, but even then, I wasn't really like jumping out and like doing like poetry or going to any poetry slams, or I wasn't like performing or anything. I was just doing like little things on my own. It's only when I reached UE that I just decided to like take it further. Actually, they had an incident that happened that was real embarrassing. That kind of led to me actually pushing it properly. Because in UE, I went up for I think it was Mr. UE verse or some trash like that. For some reason, don't ask me why, I decided to say, all right, I'll jump out myself, go into that. Decided to do a poem. It didn't go across well at all.
You remember the poem?
Nah, boy. But it wasn't like what you think. It wasn't like a poem like I was trying to be sappy or anything. It was just some poem I did. But the audience wasn't there for any poetry at all. So I think I get booed. So I was like, when I did that song, that poetry, I was like, I kept telling myself, if I did a song, that would not happen. And that's when I started writing songs. Like that moment, I was like, yeah, I want to write songs. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do any more poetry.
Yeah, we always have to reach an inflection point or something that veers us into the direction that I think we need to go. So in terms of your family though, is there anybody else that would have considered in traditional sense a creative person that may have influenced you in any way?
Yeah, for sure. My late aunt was the greatest influence on me in terms of that because she was the principal of our primary school, which was like a private school down Palo Seco called Beach Camp Primary School. And what she used to do is every year she used to have like plays and things. So everybody had to be in the play. It wasn't like a school where like you could choose to be, you have to be there. And if you don't want to act, you had to do like backstage or something. So I just got accustomed doing that. So I actually like write plays and I only could write plays because of her, because I had to read so much scripts since I was like 5 and thing, like you're learning lines and thing. I kind of understood how to do that now. So most of my writing and stuff came from her, and she was like, at least in that area, she was well respected in terms of music. She used to play piano and all those kind of things. So she was the one who kind of, not directly, like she took me under her wing or anything, but she was the biggest role model I had in terms of creativity in my family. And then like my uncle, he plays quattro and thing. He has a parang band and he always is involved with playing quattro and stuff. And my grandfather used to play piano, so my family have a lot of that.
So, but even with all of that, is not something that you naturally gravitated to.
Nah, and especially the type of music too, because being with the like Raspo hip-hop thing, my family wasn't really into that, like that type of stuff. But just having the example kind of helped me out a bit.
So say for instance, so then coming out of secondary school, what did you have any idea as to what direction you wanted to head into? Or?
Kinda, not really. By profession and thing, I do software development, computer science, that kind of thing. And that's what I have my degree in and whatnot. But I more gravitated there just because I like computers. Understand? That's how I got into it. So I remember when I finished secondary school or was going to finish, I could have been an engineer or a computer scientist. And I had the grades to be an engineer, and I just was like, well, I think I prefer computer science. I just like computers. And that was the reason. I didn't have any other deep reason. I didn't have anything to do with money, because if I would have probably just go engineering instead.
For sure.
So it was just like one of those things now. I didn't think anything deep about it.
So what about computer science that, pulls you, that you went into that as a career?
What I like about it is computer science still has a lot of element of artistry and a lot of creativity in it as well. Because when you're working on a application or you're building something, even though you're working with a team and you have like real guidelines and you have to stick to something, you always find yourself working on at least parts of the program yourself, and as on you now. Like nobody could really tell you or will tell you like how to do certain things. So it's still up to you to decide. I think, like for example, if you have to build a form for somebody to fill out something, right? People will tell you, yeah, I want it red and whatnot, but they wouldn't probably tell you, well, how to display a message or this or that. So you still have a little bit of creativity into it, and I like that. And actually, one of the things that really drew me into computer science, which I was doing for a little while, is creating games and things. I was into that for a little bit. So I really like that aspect. I actually am a really big video game nerd as well too. I really into that.
What type of games did you create?
A dancing game. This was like years ago, probably a decade ago. Like I guess like Dance Revolution, but it would have been on your phone. So you'd like tap buttons in time to the music, and then somebody would whine. I was actually working on that. Yeah.
How does the culture being Trinidad and Tobago influence what you do now?
For some reason, it's always real important to me to show off where I'm from in anything I do. Like, so that was why when I first developed that game, I was like, even though they had Dance Dance Revolution and whatnot, my first thought was I'd do something around soca and whining. Specifically, like the dancing in my game would have been whining. And like similarly with my music, I always try to do something that's about Trinidad culture. I don't know why, but I just ingrained that way from the start now. Like most people, even the rappers I know who rap with a Trinidad accent, most of them said that they started with an American accent. But I never ever did that now. I never ever thought like I would do that now. That's just how I wired from the start. And that's like what informs everything I do creatively in anything. Another thing too, even when I used to write plays and scripts and stuff, a lot of people, when they put it on a play, would buy like a play from the States and convert it or something. But I would always write like about a Trinidad story, That's just like everything I do is that. I'm not into the like not representing Trinidad.
I'm curious about this, right? What do you think the culture of Trinidad and Tobago is?
In a nutshell, the big things I would think is that's a really interesting question. It seems easy, but it's not that easy a question. I think, so I will look at it in two ways. On one hand, I think it's a certain vibe Trinidadians have that inform everything. We have a kind of carefree, easygoing, fun-loving culture, right? And then they have certain big aspects of that I think that intertwine everything. Like carnival and carnival culture is a big part of it. The racial makeup of the country has a huge part to play in it, like how we interact with each other and all the things we brought forward from like that racial makeup as well, because you have the holidays and certain things we observe. That's a big part of it. The way politicians move in this country have a big part of our culture as well, because giving you an example is like because politicians have so much control over resources in our country, and in Caribbean countries on the whole, they have people highly dependent on them now. So we have a kind of culture where like we depend on the government now. And you see that even bleed into music as well, because I read a lot about independent artists in the US, and it's the norm for artists to just do things on their own now. But in Trinidad, you would hear a lot of artists complain about, well, but why this one didn't do that, this one didn't do that, this one didn't do that, but they don't realize how much power they have now. So that's an example of like how our culture is, and that's directly informed. So I think all those things together inform our culture, and I try to, in my music a lot, I try to talk about those different stories. Like I remember I have songs where I talk about like picking mango, like I have a song called Neighbor Tree talking about that experience, which is an experience I had down south mainly, and like all those things. I have songs about politics and all those things. I think I believe comprise our culture.
In your music, what would you say is like the most poignant part that you could pull out and use in a way to educate, I guess, somebody who's not from Trinidad, to kind of give them a sense of what Trinidad is or who Trinidad is?
I don't know. Oh, okay. I think I could think of something. So I had a song with Mikazmiastic, shout out to them. That's a hip-hop group in Trinidad. A song called From an Island. The whole idea of the song is that people think that because we're from an island, we are stereotyped now. Let me see if I can remember the chorus properly. Oh yeah, is we're from an island, but people think that we swinging from trees. iPad, they don't think we have these more than the rice and peas. That's the chorus now. Right. So that chorus just shows that a lot of people who are not from Trinidad think that our Trinidad island is a certain way, but we go within the song to explain like we up on technology now. Because anybody who is from Trinidad know that people in Trinidad like real up on technology, latest iPhone, Samsung devices, all those kind of stuff. So I think that song I would point to, because it would show what the real Trinidad is now, not what people see. which is they might just see bees and think, these people just be on the road playing mass whole day. They don't know anything else, you know?
Well, I mean, I guess that because that's the biggest image that we put out as who we are as Trinidad and Tobago. And I mean, I guess this is part reason for this podcast. It's part reason for a big box of crayons in general, to kind of widen that view of what Trinidad and Tobago is as a creative place, and whatnot.
So, David, being a lover of soca, why hip hop?
That's a real good question. Because I felt like the way soca is, and I love soca, don't get me wrong, I'm a real extreme lover of soca. I listen to soca like almost, I don't want to say 24/7, but even like when it's not carnival, I will like bump soca and stuff. But the thing is, the way soca is set up is not set up for you to talk about like certain issues. Certain things you could kind of fit in, maybe you could slow down the beat, but it not going to work as a soca if you want to like talk about like, you know, you still have to put, so for example, right, even the soca they have, like let's say Ravi B song Budget, that's a social commentary, right? I mean, we could debate whether it's soca or chutney, but, right? He talk about a social commentary, but he spin it into a humor. No? He spin it into humor because at the end of the day, soca is upbeat music. So even if you're talking about a serious issue, you still will have to do that now. But if I'm talking about an issue, I have a song called Don't Like, right? And in that song, when I wrote that song right after one of the budgets. I was pissed off. I wrote that song, right? And that song is not about no fun loving shit. That song was like, that song is not about any fun loving thing. That song is like, you all just raise a set of things in the country and I pissed off. They have no fun loving or party into that. I can't express that in soca. Nobody wants to go in a party and hear a pissed off song. They still want to hear, like when Bungie does some clever, it still has some kind of euphoria, or you still have to get back to, but we happy, but we fitting, or but we, you know, you like jamming still. The city go burn down, but we jamming still. And the thing is, it have an irony to that, but people still jamming still. You understand? But the music I want to do, and I respect that. I could do that as well now. But sometimes I want to do something that is not happy. When you hear it, you know, like, or I might do like a story about, like one of these songs I have on my new album, Mughal Music. I did a song dedicated to like my family, you know, and just a set of different things about it. And I talked about my aunt who passed away and stuff. Can't do that in a soca song. You know, it just don't really work now. So
in essence, it's just a matter of the platform for the best delivery.
Yeah, and me as an artist, that's what I want to do now. Like, you know, just to contrast it, like my little brother, he's a soca artist. He, not that he doesn't feel those things, but in his music, he expresses that more fun love inside of him than me doing this. But me, I'm a person, I want to get the full range of stuff out, and, you know, seems like that hip-hop / Raspo seems like the best vehicle to do that.
Where did you start then? Who were your influences in that regard?
So I will say, so I started as hip-hop, but the line's really blurred because I rap with a Trini accent. Most people who not into hip-hop will just say, hey, he doing rap, so, you know, that's what it sounds like to them now. So the line's really blurred. But when I started, my big influences was Kanye West. But Lil Wayne came after. When I started, it would have been Kanye West, Eminem, were being two. And like on the Trini side, I always really admired Three Sons. Like really, really admired them guys. I find them guys amazing.
So you don't know nothing about like Kiss Kitty Caravan? And...
No, I know, okay. I know Kiss Kitty Caravan and General Grant. And yeah, I actually have the Kiss Kitty Caravan CD. No, not the actual CD, but I have the CD home. Big up Ozzy Merrick.
Right.
I got that. I always wanted that. I didn't get to go because I was living down Palo Seco, so I couldn't go Kiss Kitty Caravan when it was like thing. But I used to see the ads on TV, I think. So I know about them stuff, but I find Three Sons is one of the most lyrically gifted things that ever happened to soca music. And I mean, they I mean, their music's still upbeat, but it's just like how they put it down. I always admire that, especially Menace, who goes by M1 now. I find he was amazing. And Bungie, of course. Marshall as well. Like, I always... Something about how Marshall delivered stuff I always admired as well. I don't think... Now, here's the weird thing, Just to jump off that point. At one point, I was shooting a hip-hop documentary, right? It never saw the light of day, but I was shooting it. And I went to a lot of rappers, but it was focused on rappers who rap with a Trini accent to find out like why they do it now. And a lot of the older rappers were directly influenced by Calypso, specifically David Rudder. So that's like a real interesting, thing. But to just to jump off of that, I wasn't really influenced by David Rudder that way. Weirdly enough, it was more like, I think the raga soca, part of soca, influenced me more than anything else, I would say. In terms of like how I decided to really put it down.
At what age would you have been starting to pay attention to that music, the kind of cool stuff from it?
I seriously started like actually writing and trying to record music when I was like around 21, 22. Okay. That's when I would have first started. Right. So at that point in time in Trinidad, Raga Soca was a big thing. Like they had a Raga Soca Monarch, Bungie, Three Sons, Keelan. They had a lot of Raga Soca. Even Marshall was doing Raga Soca type things where it's like it was soca, but the soca was a little slowed down. It had a more of a kind of dancehall or Raga Soca bunks, Doggy Slaughter, all the men, even, I can't remember, is Maximus, well, he was Magadan and he was Maximus. What's his, he's go by now? I think he has some other Super K now. But he and all those guys were doing that. Ataclan was big too, around that time. Ataclan is a very big influence too. Because since Flambeau into the other stuff he did afterwards, when he did stuff with Marshall, Rapso, Blunt and those things, all those stuff I was really influenced by.
What is your creative process? Do you need to be in a specific place? Do you do specific things to put yourself in a creative state of mind?
Nah, I just I have two modes I work on. So they have like, you get inspired. So something will happen to me in my life, or like something happen in news, or like I like to observe people when I travel. Traveling is be a good time to observe people. I will like, so for example, I will be traveling and I'll watch somebody, and somebody might say something like, yeah boy, only like fellas with man bun. Be like, interesting. I'll just jot down that. Not saying I will use it as a song title, but I'll just be like, that's interesting like perspective to take, So they have that, but other than that, I just try to work all the time. Boy. I don't try to like wait for anything to come. I just like just get done. So now, like for example, now I plan to release like a song, kind of like a song or a freestyle verse, something every week next for the next year. So like I've already compiling songs, and like with that I not like waiting to see whether I feel anything. I just gonna write, whatever happens no? And when you write, like sometimes you get flashes of brilliance. So I just write and I let people decide. So before I put them out, I will like let people I know listen. I don't even listen to what they say, because the thing about people is when you play stuff for them, people feel self-conscious now. They want to tell you something's trash. They be like, yeah, it's songing, yeah, you should put it out now, that kind of thing. So what I do is, like when I play something for people, I just watch them, just observe their body language, and you could tell body language don't lie now. You could always tell when somebody really likes something. So I just do songs. Like for my last album, I probably did like about 30 songs, maybe more. When I started the album, I had a certain set of songs, and from the first set of songs I had, I think I only kept like 1 or 2. And this was like 8 songs I had before. So I just write, and whoever reaches to the universe is up to people. I don't let that get in the way of me like doing what I have to do. I just keep doing it. Because as you make it get better, you just have to keep writing and keep working.
At any point in time felt that a negative criticism or you put out something that you thought was, this is the shit, and you get that feedback like, nah dog, this ain't working. Has that affected you and how did you overcome that to keep on doing what you're doing?
The negative feedback doesn't affect you so much. In 2018, today's world, the worst thing could happen is you put out something and crickets. That's hurt the worst. Because most times when people say, boy, that shit, right, because that is usually that doesn't usually happen when you put out something that's very divisive. So it'll be like people really like it and people really hate it. And that's be good. I don't mind that. Like, people, boy, that's real shit, you should stop doing that. That's cool. But it's be worse when you put out something and have indifference. Indifference is the worst thing that could happen in this current time. And that's hurt. Is be like, there had times when I thought things would work and didn't. One example that happened to me is I had a song called Box Lunch, right? And I was inspired to write that song because they had a video of teachers stealing box lunch, like eating people box lunch. So I was like, yeah, this looked like it could resonate. Everybody knows about box lunch now. So I wrote this song as like, and I played, everywhere I played for liked it, you know. But when I put it out, it's like, people just like shrug, you know. It didn't do anything, no. But the weird thing about that song is is up on like iTunes and thing. And like, it's got like a good bit of plays now on iTunes. So I don't know, maybe it's just like it didn't drop in the right place. Could be. But that was one of the surprises I get. I don't normally get surprised that much because my process is do a song rough, like totally rough, play it for somebody. If they like it, then that means I have something. I purposefully record things like very rough now because I don't want because it engineered well for somebody to say like, yeah, it's sung in real professional, boy. I don't want that now. I don't want professional sounding songs. I want songs that sound like they could change something or like affect somebody. I don't care about like the professionalism is just like, you know. So that's what I do. And then once I do that and somebody likes it, then once it reaches the final stage, I know it reaches a point where they have a good chance that something I'm happy with. And I do that for singles as well too, because I realize as artists, we suck at picking the right singles. Like, which is, like, my idea of what is the best song or which is the song that people like, there's always be off most times. I realize that as an artist, no matter what anybody will tell you, you want your music. Artists want to make money, right? But some don't want to make money, which is true, and I believe that. But all artists want their music to get heard. That's why you're doing it. If you didn't do it to get heard, you wouldn't put it out, right? So you always will fall into this space where you'll be like, how can I assure that people will like this? So, you know, you'll fall along certain patterns and you know, as a good artist, you're always supposed to stay current and like listen to other things in your genre and follow patterns to a certain extent. But I try not to get too caught up with that because that is severely stunt your creativity. You end up just doing what everybody else is doing. So what I do is just do what I feel and then let people judge after. If they don't like it, cool. If they like it, cool. Sometimes I may experiment with like with things that are popular that I like. So like I really like trap hip-hop music. Even though like I really like old school hip-hop, I really like a lot of the vibes of some of the new artists and things. Even though they're not lyrical and whatnot, I like the energy of it. So I will jump on a beat like that, or I would make music with that kind of thing. But I try not to like, I try not to. I've probably done it in the past, but I don't think I've been very successful ever with like trying to do something because, yeah, this will work. I find that is not the best way to do things because the strange thing about it, the weirdest things just end up working. For some reason, like the strangest things just end up just coming out of nowhere and hitting.
And musically, where do you just mentioned trap and old school hip hop, but when you're producing your own music, where do you really go and look for influence from?
It's mainly be whatever beat resonates with me. Because so even though I consider myself no rap, so I think I get inspired a lot by hip hop beats, you know. But what I'm trying to do now going forward is I'm trying to mix it a lot more with indigenous stuff from the beat perspective. So before earlier in my career, you could say I was making like hip hop music and hip hop beats, but I was using our own vernacular, and I used to develop my own flows now, based on like how we speak and thing. Because how we would flow on a beat as a Trini artist is different to like how you'd flow as an American hip hop artist, based on the way your words sound, you'd rhyme certain words in a certain way, certain cadences and thing. But now I want to move to, which is part of the reason I went into calling myself Raspo. I want to move to the place where Trini-Hip-Hop is its own genre. So, for example, you have Afrobeats, right? Afrobeats is like hip-hop influence, but Afrobeats is its own thing. It has its own beat. If you hear Afrobeat, you know it's an Afrobeat now. You're not going to think, well, this is hip-hop, and then men just rapping African, you know, or with an African accent. They have their own beat now. So I want to develop a Trini-Hip-Hop beat. But it's not as easy as, you know, it's very difficult. But that's why I would like to mix calypso and stuff. And I've done it in the past. Like, I have an album called Kai Flow that I did with Engineer, where we sampled calypso, old calypso, and we put like hip-hop beats on it, and we would rap about what the original song was. So we had a song called Ugly Gal. So we already have a calypso called Ugly Woman, about making an ugly woman your wife. So we updated it and say, well, the best thing is if you have an ugly gal as your wife now. And we went like talking about how the benefits of that now. So I experimented that way already, but I want to go even more into it, because that one was sampling calypso, but it was still hip hop beats now. So if you could find a beat that's like, could be like a calypso beat or that kind of beat, but still, you know, I want it to be that people from the US will respect it as its own thing. You know, they will realize, hey, you know, kind of like grime. Right? Grime is like what they do in the UK. Grime have their own bunks, their own flow. Like, you could tell like it's hip hop, they still rapping, it's still lyrical, but a grime bunks and hip hop bunks is different. It's a different beat.
How would you then classify, I guess, a Rapso beat?
From what I gather, even though it's called Rapso, the time when Rapso started may have predated hip hop and rap. You understand? So Rapso is more influenced by like street poetry, you know. So I think in the earlys, like and chantwells and those kind of things. So in the earlys, it was more like somebody would be drumming and people would be like just saying poetic stuff now rhythmically to that drum. So that's why Rapso itself is very drum oriented now. Which is actually why in the earlys I didn't want to call myself Rapso, because I knew what Rapso was now. So in my opinion, what I used to tell people is that Rapso is something different now. It's not just like rap and calypso. Right, Rapso gotcha. Is like a whole different thing now. Right. It's just the name is like kind of, but my thing is I actually would like to do that, to go more in that vein, because that is like more unique and indigenous than just being on a hip hop beat. It's just that I want to be able to update it in such a way that it could resonate with people in Trinidad. Because, I mean, every artist want to be mainstream, you want to make money. And I know one lie and say that's not part of my goals. But I also want to influence. That's what I want to do. I want to be influential. Like, I think about what Dr. Dre did with G-Funk, right? When he had the album with Snoop Dogg and those kind of things, right? G-Funk became a genre in rap that like brought it to a mainstream. Because after Dr. Dre did his album, Snoop Dogg had his album, and he had all the West Coast artists doing G-Funk, and that expanded rap's palette because those people were sampling soul samples and stuff now. And I want Trini-Hip-Hop to reach mainstream. I find like how it is now, it's in such a way that all we get is flashes in the pan. So you have, when we did Cheese Pie and Pack Juice, we had like a moment. And you have Young Rod and Mark Hardy and those guys, they had their moment when they did their stuff. And he had Rolling in a Foreign News. And if you remember that, if you know that song, there's a song called Rolling in a Foreign News with my heart pong. That song was a huge hit. He had a moment as well. And in Chromatics, when he did Carnival Wrap Up, he had moments. But all we have is moments. We don't have like, we don't have a movement. Nobody wants to say, yeah, boy, you go in hip-hop fete later, boy. I hear Ting performing. No, we didn't reach that stage now. And I fed up with just having moments now. I don't want to have another personal moment where, okay, Face do this thing and he get play on radio and Marshall call him out somewhere and next year that's it now. I want to have a movement where I do something, I could be an artist, I could make money off it. And then you have people coming up and then you have like Billboard will be like, yeah, these people, you know, in Trinidad, they have this thing called Trini-Hip-Hop, but it's not really like rap, is like, just like how they have Afrobeats. Afrobeats is actually a genre in iTunes, you know. You could go and submit that song now. You can't submit Rapso or Soca in iTunes, right? If you look for like any of those Soca songs and challenge you, right? You know they go under world music, reggae, and stuff. Fian released a reggae album the other day, not a Soca album, even though it had Soca on it. So those things are like, you know, that's what I'm looking at right now with music. I want to, the next album I do, that's like the lofty requirements I put on it. Like I want to do something that could influence, at least start the spark that people could jump on and follow it.
I mean, you mentioned a lot of names during the conversation that I had no idea about. How do you propose then to galvanize this small community to help make it something? Because for me, I think for most part, the creative industry is very segmented.
Well, they have a lot of things that have to happen, but the first problem with, so the thing that hip-hop in Trinidad has going for it is that there have been some examples of success, right? Even though I call them like just moments, right? But if somebody used to say, well, what is Trinidad hip-hop? Somebody could still say, yeah, boy, Chromatics did Carnival Wrap Up, boy. They actually have, you know, they have like a moment or whatever, right? The problem with hip-hop in Trinidad is that it is not is not recognizable and definable by the sound of it, right? So soca in Trinidad, you know what soca is, you know, once you hear it, you know, yeah, there's soca, or all these genres that's successful have that. Soca, calypso, you know calypso and thing. But hip-hop in Trinidad has a legacy of, hip-hop in Trinidad, when I talk to a lot of people started rapping in Trinidad because they heard Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang is like, you know, it has to be officially proven, but a lot of people, the early people influenced by Wu-Tang, right? So hip-hop started off because it's not a Trinidadian creation. And maybe that might be part of the answer. That's why a lot of people started off basically emulating what they saw from the US, right? But that is one of the biggest obstacles to hip-hop being generally accepted. Because most of the songs in Trinidad that got like real acceptance is like songs that Trini, you know, songs like about Trini accent or Trini topic, because that people could relate to. And that's what hip hop is about essentially now. It's about seeing things that resonate with people, like, I feel this, you know. And in my opinion, I know some people might hear this and be like, boy, this man thinking all people rap with American accent. I really not, because I do enjoy a lot of the artists who rap with a US accent. But in my opinion, from the evidence I've seen, And I'm a real evidence-based person. If I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. From what I've observed, people in Trinidad really resonate if you rap with your own accents and you rap with topics that they could relate to. That is it, right? But that is still only one piece of the puzzle. I've noticed personally as somebody who raps with a Trini accent that the beat is another thing, because I'll be rapping on hip-hop beats, right? But unless you're into hip-hop culture, you wouldn't really resonate with that beat. You know, we in Trinidad, we tend to more resonate with like a soca type bonks instead. No, it's not that people don't like hip-hop, but I have actually actively noticed that's part of the problem. So I think the beat becoming something, if we could find a beat that we could stamp as a Trini-Hip-Hop beat, those will be the start of it. Now, they have a lot of other things happening. Like, I've spoke to people about this. For one, the reason why soca is so successful is because there's a festival built around it, right? Carnival, and they have now that festival has spilled over to even other parts of the world, which helps its case even more. Because Carnival exists, this is the place where soca artists can make money, they could be booked. And as I've told people, as somebody who had like a moment, a flash in the pan moment, when you have that moment, so let's say you're a hip-hop artist, you have a hit playing on radio. The next thing is, well, how do I get paid? Performances. In Trinidad, nobody will just hire you to perform, even if you have a hit song. Hear how they'll hire you. They'll say, you don't mind coming out and perform for me, boy? You'll get exposure, you'll get more fans. So you have to perform for free. You're not getting paid. And the reason why you're not getting paid is they want to know whether it's more than a moment. If it's not more than a moment, they're not willing to pay you. But because soca is an established festival, and the new concert goers going anyway, it's just, you're just using your popular song to, satisfy them. Then you have a way of getting paid. And then that's where, when you can get paid consistently, that's where things become sustainable. And when things become sustainable, then an artist could invest more in the next project. That's how things work. So if I put out a good song and it makes, I'll get money and then I could invest more, then the music gets better and better now. So all those are the next stages. You have to get a festival. We have to have like collectives. Collectives work really good too if you have like a group and thing. But before we do that, we have to have a definable sound. We have to have a sound that people inside, local, and abroad could say, this is what Trini-Hip-Hop sounds like. This is what it is, right? Rapso has a sound, I mean, yeah, you have for the Resistance, you have Kindred and all. But when people hear a Rapso song, there's no is Rapso now. But Trini-Hip-Hop, when people hear a Trini-Hip-Hop song, it's either they will be like, he from Trinidad? Or they don't know that it's Trini-Hip-Hop, they just know it's hip-hop. Now, some people may argue, and I'll counter them, I'll be my own devil's advocate. Some people may say, but hip-hop is a global genre. Why limited to Trinidad? That's what they'll say. But my argument with that is, I don't believe that it's productive to be in Trinidad and be doing a global genre and not be adding anything to it or putting your spin on it. Because hip-hop came out of dancehall. Well, hip-hop, no, not a dancehall, sorry. Hip-hop originated in Jamaica. This is when in Jamaica they was doing something called toasting. And Kool Herc, who first started, like considered one of the fathers of hip-hop, he's a Jamaican and he brought the toasting culture to the US. And the US didn't do like toasting, they did their own thing, and that's how they have hip-hop. And so that's how you do a genre right. You get influenced by one and you make it your own. Like grime started out of hip-hop and then they put their own spin on it and they have grime. And now anybody worldwide know what a grime artist is, and these guys can make money off of it. But to me, if you just take in somebody's genre and you could do that, but I don't think that is the most effective way to do it, I should say. So that's my opinion. Yeah.
Leads me into this question, what do you want to be most remembered for?
I I think I will answer it in two parts, right? So they have immediately. I think when I really ready to rack up my creativity, which will probably be on my deathbed, because I don't see myself stopping being creative, because other than music, I really like writing and stuff. I like writing articles. I wrote a screenplay for a movie that I'm doing that coming out in 2020 based on one of my albums. So even that I want to get into now, like writing screenplays, writing plays. So I want to do a lot of things. So in general, I want to be remembered for like impacting the creative industry in Trinidad significantly. Like, I don't know if you ever got a chance to watch Quincy Jones has a documentary on Netflix. Like how Quincy Jones, like, this man's friggin' amazing. Man worked with Frank Sinatra, then he went on to work with Michael Jackson. Then he went on to do We Are the World, the first of those kind of songs to relief songs. Then he went on to like produce Fresh Prince, like another cultural, like how he touched all those things now. Overall, I want to be like that. I want to be able to touch with my fingerprints like everywhere now. And that's why it's good that I have the recording studio now, because before I wasn't in enough control to like make movements happen. And hopefully as time goes on, I'm more in an ownership state where I could say, because in Trinidad, owners very conservative, like business owners, and people in positions won't do what needs to be done. So for example, a person might own a club, right? Now the club owners will say, boy, but if we hire all your local people, nobody will come, right? But they know that there are ways to do it, that you could do it, that you will make money and still push the genre. But what they're really saying, and I ain't really blaming them for it, but what they're really saying is, but why expending that effort? Why? But me, if I'm in a position, I would, because I have a reason to. I'm invested in the culture. It's not just about the money, right? But to do it, I need to be in the position to do that, because other people who in the position not going to do it. When they're going to do it, they'll do it when somebody like me does it and they see the profit. Then everybody all of a sudden will be like, hey, local hip hop, yeah, we on the thing. So that's eventually I want to be. But like right now, what I'm focusing on in terms of my personal music, I want to be influential in Trini-Hip-Hop into making it like a respected and recognized. I say in Trini-Hip-Hop, but it's not going to be called that. I assume when it gets popular, somebody will give it a good name. Because that always be. It's always be some journalist will come and like give it a catchy name, and that will be it. And I cool. Because if you think of even soca, they spell soca S-O-K-H, and that didn't stick. Yeah. Somebody was clever enough to give it the S-O-C-A, which is easy. 2 syllables, everything, it looks good and everything. So I know when Trini-Hip-Hop makes it big, it will get. But I want Trini-Hip-Hop to be a genre that is respected and sustainable, just like soca. So I want it to be like, okay, January, February, or Christmas, I don't know, they kind of pushing back Christmas or whatever. Christmas or February is soca. Okay, July, August is hip-hop. That's what I'm looking at. That's where I'm looking at it with it. I'm not looking like, I don't want any more moments. I mean, not saying that. Yeah, I mean, the moments is what you need before that, but I'm not satisfied with moments. I'm not satisfied with just, yeah, boy, David, I hear on radio, boy, you big now, boy. I'm not satisfied with just that now. I will only be satisfied when I see, just like how on radio, they're advertising this fete and the soca artists in it. When they're advertising this fete and the rap artists in it, that's when I'm satisfied. That's when I'll be like, okay, cool. And it's not just about me. I want to be able to start it and define something and let people copy me and jump on it and then continue the trend. Mm-hmm. That's when I'll be satisfied.
Yeah. So where do we find all this music that's being produced?
I would say it's real fragmented right now. So I mean, all of it is on all the platforms, right? But it's not like in a place where you could just easily touch it, like how people now know, like if I go to Julian's promos, I go hear the new soca. Mm-hmm. So I would say like you'll have to go YouTube or somebody will have to suggest it to you, which is, I guess, part of the problem right now. in terms of that. But what I have been trying to do as well, like on Apple Music, I've started like building playlists for certain stuff. So I actually started building some playlists for Trini-Hip-Hop, even for soca as well. Because weirdly enough, I've started building on Apple Music a best of like every year in soca. Because they didn't have that now. So that's why I've started doing even for hip-hop. So I would say that's like a place where people could go and like listen to some hip-hop. But in general, unfortunately, is if somebody tell you of a song and you go and listen to it, or somebody tell you of an album or send you links, that's basically how it is right now.
Well, David, thank you very, very much. I mean, the first one.
Before I done, let me just give some shout outs and some
main important part.
Any plugs.
All your Instagram and YouTube.
All the plugs and the shout outs.
Yes, for sure.
Now, but first, before I start, I just want to thank you all a lot for having me. I mean, doing the interview. I mean, I was watching the sites and stuff, so I was really glad to. I actually wanted to do this one, do the interview and stuff, and for having me as the podcast number one. Big up. I mean, sure. I would tell anybody listening to this to make sure and go and check out the site, the Crayons, and not only check out my interview and my stuff, but check out other people, because the beauty of the site is even people I don't know. Most sites I would just go and like check and see who I know and read about them. But this one, even people I don't know, I'll read about and interested to see where they're coming from. So, kudos to you all. And of course, I want to big up my recording studio, Future Crab Studios in Chagonas. I big up Ravi and Kit. That's my two business partners. Big up Ballistic Boys. That's the production team we're working with as well. Big up my brother Daniel. Big up my wife Kim. And, just everybody else. To find me, check out the website, The Hardest Working Trinidad Artist. Check out my website. And, I mean, there you would go to all my social media, links and whatnot. But just search for The Face on any platform. You should see me. Check out the new album, Mogul Music. You can actually find that on... that's on all digital platforms. If you're an Apple Music user or any of the platforms, you can listen to the album. But, you could find the album on the website. And look out for I had a Kickstarter running for my movie. I have a Kickstarter running for my movie project. Right now, it's 1/3 funded. And I want to shout out all the people who helped me so far. So that actually allowed me to build screenplay writing software and, start shooting. But if anybody listening willing to, want to contribute, they could go to my website and contribute to the project. And look out for the movie coming out in 2020. That will be coming out in the debuting Trinidad Film Festival. It's going to be first time in Trinidad. It's going to be a movie, or what they call an audio-visual album. So it will contain all the music from the album with music videos, but it'll be connected by a storyline. So a storyline based on all the songs would be the plot of the movie. So it's gonna be real exciting stuff. So, and here does it. And of course, big up thanks for having me again.
Please share this episode with someone who would find it valuable. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts to get new episodes as they become available. Find additional content on abigboxofcrayons.com. Follow us on Instagram at abigboxofcrayons. We Are Crayons, the podcast, is a production of A Big Box of Crayons. All rights reserved. Until next time, remember, we are all the same in the fact that we'll never be the same. Stay colorful, and thank you for listening.